Hi guys, Lisa here again from Recreated Designs, and I'm happy to be back with you again showing you another painting technique. Today we're going to be painting things to look like galvanized metal. Galvanized metal has become really popular for home decor in the last few years, but it can be really expensive to buy it or even to find it. Really authentic pieces like this or like the old wash bin. So I'm going to show you how you can take anything in your house and paint it to have this same beautiful look to it. So we're going to use a couple of thrift store finds. So these are things that I just picked up at the local thrift store, and we can paint them to have this metal look. So it's really easy, and you can use this on anything in your house. So I'm going to take something that's glass, and we have this big glass vase. We're going to paint a Christmas tin, which are in abundance at thrift stores any time of the year. So this is stuff you can pick up for next to nothing. And we're just going to paint the tin part today, so we don't need the lid. And we're going to paint wood. We're going to paint a wood salad bowl. So I'm actually going to use all of these things in my garden this summer to put different kinds of plants in, but I want them to look uniform, so we're going to paint them. So to get the galvanized metal look, what galvanized metal is just a coating of zinc over top of iron or steel, and that's what gives it that gorgeous look of the silver and the white. It's the zinc over top, so that's what we want to do. So whenever you're going to paint something to look like galvanized metal, you want to start with a really dark base. So I'm going to use Fusion Mineral Paint, and I'm going to use ash, which is like a dark gray color. And we're going to start with that. I'd love to know, too, where you're tuning in from tonight. All right, so let us know where you're joining us from, and we're also going to do a giveaway later at the end of the broadcast. Hometalk is going to give away a cool Hometalk tote, and what we want to know, so you can type in your answers, is what you would paint to look like galvanized metal in your house. So if you have something that you would like to use this paint technique on, let us know, and we will pick a winner at the end. So we're going to start. And you can see I've just got a normal paintbrush. And like I said, I'm using Fusion Mineral Paint, and this color that I have is like a dark brushed steel color, and it's called ash. So I'm just going to paint this around, and this is going to be underneath, so it doesn't have to be a great coat of paint. You just want enough to cover it. And I'm going to, because I'm going to put plants in this, I don't need to paint the whole inside of the bowl. So you can see I'm just going to paint around kind of the rim. In case the dirt and the plants don't come up to the top, I want to make sure that the edge is painted. So we've got that. And I wanted to show you how easy it is to take something that's wood, something that's glass, and something that's tin, so that they all can look the same when they're done. Anything that you can put paint on that paint will stick to, really you can use this technique on. So you can see we're doing the same. This is a great idea in the summer too, if you want to paint plastic pots that you have outside, because plastic won't rust. So this is a great way if you want to take plastic pots, but sometimes the plastic pots you get are kind of ugly for your plants and stuff. So a few years ago, I started collecting different galvanized things to put all of my plants in. So you can see again, we're just going to paint the undercoat of this. We're going to give it this dark ash color, which is a gorgeous gray color. So we're just putting a thin coat of this on. Again, it doesn't have to be great because we're going to do a few layers of different colored paint over top of this. Whoops. As you can see, this is a bit messy, but okay. So if you're just joining us, we're painting today. We're going to use a technique in painting to make whatever it is in your home look like galvanized metal. So, all right, so we have our I'm just going to do the top of this. Okay, so we have the layer of ash on, and you can see I have a big piece of galvanized metal right here, and you can see it's got a whole bunch of different silver and gray colors in it. So that's the look that we're going for. We really want to have all of those gorgeous grays and deep shades, but we want to start with dark on the bottom. So normally you would let this dry at this point. We would let the ash dry, but we're going to keep going so that you can see what it will look like as we add more colors.
What type of paints are you using?
For this, I'm using Fusion Mineral Paint. On my blog, all of the projects that I do are usually paint related, so I use all different kind of paints, and Fusion had some really nice colors that I wanted to use today, but you can use any kind of paint you want. You can use craft paint, any of the chalk paints. Fusion has, excuse me, Fusion has a top coat built in, so it's really good for outdoor use too. So, all right, so we've got our layer of ash on. Next, we want to add a pale color, like a white color, because that, when they put zinc over metal, that layer of zinc is what creates all of those white undertones. So we're going to use, again, I'm just using Fusion Mineral Paint. And I have two different ones here. I have Casement, which is kind of a creamy white, and I have one called Lamp White, which has a bit of a gray undertone to it. And you can use any color of white or cream that you want. So when you're doing the galvanized metal look, you really want to layer the paint. That's what's going to give it that depth and that really gorgeous look of it almost looks like a watercolor painting because it's kind of smudgy and kind of all runs together, but that's what gives it that layered look. So I'm just going to use a little bit of, this is the Lamp White. So I've just got a little paint here. And don't forget, we want to hear what you would have in your house that you would paint. You can paint anything. You can use any sort of container to put, once these are painted, you can use them for storage on a desk. You could use them in your kitchen. There are so many different uses. This, you can see this one is actually paint here. It's painted like galvanized metal, and it's just a thrift store bowl and a thrift store candlestick that I turned into a stand for one of my plants. So you can see you can really use this anywhere in your house. Okay, so I'm going to take, this is some of my white. For this step, I really like to use one of these chip brushes. They're really loose and they're not tight. The bristles aren't tight together, so they really, and it's a wide bristle, so you can see that. And you can pick these up anywhere. You can pick them up at craft stores, Michael's. If you're in the States, I'm up in Canada, but if you're in the States, like Hobby Lobby has them really cheap. And they're just called chip brushes. So we're just going to put a little bit of white on the brush. You don't want to put too much, just a little bit. And we're going to start putting little areas of white. We don't want to paint the whole thing, again, because you want to get this look of all the different depths and different colors of gray and white. So we're just going to start making patches around on our ash. And I'm not putting much paint on my brush at all, because I just kind of want to give it a look. And it's okay if the paint blends together. We'll just get it, and we're just going to kind of make patches around. We want some of that dark to show through. All right.
They're really enjoying watching you paint.
So we're just going to get all kinds of patches of white around here, and if you really want to get creative, you can use different colors of white. I wouldn't use a cream on this. I would try and stick to the white color, because the zinc on real galvanized steel or iron is white, so you want to kind of stay away from the creamy whites. So I'm just going to get a little more paint here. Okay, we're just going going to put a little bit on our bowl here. Try to flip it over here. And just paint all around. Just patches. All right, you can see that. Kind of looks funny at this stage. Almost looks like a zebra or leopard prints, but as we add more and more layers, you'll see that it has that look of galvanized metal. So as they say, it always looks worse until it looks better, right? So we'll get this. I'd love to hear what other uses you would have for this too, like what you could paint and what you could use it for. That would be great. And again, if you're just joining us, we're painting today a technique to make anything that you have at home to look like galvanized metal, because galvanized, the antiques can be quite expensive and they're hard to find. So this is an easy way to just turn anything into galvanized metal. The dark? So the first coat that I put on, if you're just tuning in, was a dark gray, and it was called Ash. It was a fusion mineral paint color called Ash. And again, you can use any paint brand that you want. This is the gray that we started with. And it's kind of like a deep, dark, brushed steel color almost. So, all right. So we've got our splotchy white on here. And galvanized metal can be as dark or as light as you want. You can see there are pieces that are really light, and there are pieces you see when you're looking for antiques that are dark. So this is really your preference, whether you make it a light pale gray or you go darker. All right, so we're gonna go to the next step, and we want to add the silver color. Again, if you're doing this at home, you can let this dry if you want. You can let these layers dry before you do this light layer on top. You don't have to do this all at once. So we are going to take some, again, I'm going to use Fusion Mineral Paint, and we're going to use Sterling, which is kind of this pale gray color. We can also use, here's another, it's a Tones for Tot, and you can see it's just a different gray color, so this is just your preference. You can use whatever color of gray you'd like. And I'm just going to put a bunch of different grays on my plate here. There we go. So we've got, you can see there's a pale gray, there's a darker gray. And if you want to get really creative and fancy, you can even add, there's a fusion here, and this one actually is a metallic paint. So you can see it's got a bit of a shine to it, and if you want to add that in too, you can do a little of that. Then it really has that metal look. So we're going to make these pretty pale, like a pale gray. So I'm going to use the same chip brush that I just used, and we're going to combine the paints like this. So you can see you're just putting a bunch of paint on your paintbrush, and we're going to start painting through. You don't want to put too much, and we're just going to start almost like a watercolor. You want to start combining the colors. It's really easy to overpaint when you're doing galvanized metal, because when you get up close you can really see the colors, but when you stand back it kind of always smears together. So when you're painting, kind of step back and see if it's the way you want it, and see if it's got the layers that you want. So you can see we don't want any big brush strokes, we just kind of want to swirl it all together here. And it's starting to take on that look of the galvanized metal, of the zinc over top of the metal. So again, if you're just tuning in, don't forget to tell us. Sorry, my cameraman was telling me something here. If you're just tuning in, be sure to tell us what you would paint in your house like this. If you have an idea of storage or something in your kitchen that you would paint. And don't forget to like and share the video for Hometalk. That would be wonderful. So you can see here it's all starting to blend together and it's getting that beautiful look. When this is dry, you'll really see the undertones in white, and you'll see it starting to blend together, and you'll see patches, little spots of dark gray, patches of white. And you can, again, you can do whatever color you want. Make sure not to overpaint. So I don't want to just paint the whole thing and smear it together. I really want all these layers to come out. So we're going to keep going here. And I'm going to do the same to my bowl. I'm just going to start. You can see there, we're just kind of smearing it all together and adding some different colors. So when I put paint on my brush, I'm just kind of putting the different colors on each end of the brush. We're just going to smear it all here. So if you've thought of anything that you would paint in your home, be sure to tell us. And tell us where you're joining you from too. If you are somewhere else, be sure to let us know. I know our friends in New England are getting quite the snowstorm, so maybe you're inside this afternoon watching. So you can see there it's all starting to smudge together. You don't want any harsh lines, and that's the beautiful thing about galvanized metal. It's got those soft, swishy lines, almost like watercolor paint. Okay, so let's turn this over, and we're going to do the same on the inside here. Again, you don't want to put too much paint on. We just want to kind of, if you're just tuning in, we're using a whole bunch of thrift store finds, and these are things that I'm going to plant plants in for the summer. I live in the city, and I'm going to put plants on one of my balconies. I use all galvanized metal for all the containers, but it can be hard to find, so I started finding wood and plastic things because they won't rust, and painting them. That way I can put them on the balcony. I don't have to worry about the rust rings or anything like that. So you can see, here you can see too, this side is lighter than over here, and that's okay. As it dries, you'll see all the gorgeous colors coming through. So we've taken something that's wood and something that's glass, and we're going to take an old Christmas tin, and that's the other one here. So again, we're just going to get a little bit of paint here. And start smearing it around. There are so many things that you could do with this after. I use them to store all of my hardware in, screws and things like that. All of these old Christmas tins, you can find them all over in the thrift stores for next to nothing. So they're great for storage, but obviously you don't want the Christmas pattern on them, so this way we can make them look a little more modern, a little sleeker for your home decor. Okay, so you can see that's kind of all smeared together there. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in too, and we'll try and answer your questions. So if you find, again, as you stand back, you can kind of see that the colors, they might look splotchy up close, but you can kind of see they start blending together as you step back a bit. So, and if they're not, then we'll just keep, you can just work this as much as you want or as little as you want until you get that look. Okay, how's that looking? Do we need to get those beautiful whites shining through? And you don't want any harsh lines. So if there's any spots where you're kind of seeing lines, you can take a look. And if you look on real galvanized metal here, this is an old wash bin, you can see all of those beautiful colors in there coming through. So that's what we want, almost to look like a watercolor painting where you're getting the colors to smear together. And if you find you've got too much paint, just take a dry brush and you can start running it around too. You don't want to have any obvious spots that are really dark or really light. Okay, so let's check back on our bowl here and see what we need to do. So this one's got some spots that are really dark still, and we don't want that. We want it to blend. Again, you can make this as light or as dark as you want, because there are galvanized metals that are dark, and then you see them like this bowl that are really light, almost a pale silver color. So if you're just tuning in, we're using Fusion Mineral Paint, but you can use any craft paint that you find at the store. It doesn't have to be any particular brand. And again, if you want to start, you can keep taking a dry brush if you want to get that look of mixing it all up. So this one, I'm actually going to put some dirt in, almost like this bowl. I wanted it to mimic this bowl, and put succulents in. You see succulents a lot in home decor now. So once this is dry, I'll be able to turn it over and just put a little layer of dirt in. And because it's wood, it's all natural. And
what would happen if you're using a sponge instead of a brush?
you could absolutely use a sponge too. It would blend it as well too. Definitely, I haven't tried it with a sponge, but I'm sure it would be the same. You could get a really nice look out of a sponge. So I'm just going to cover up some of these really dark spots. So one thing that I like to do too, once the paint is dry, and we're going to do a little bit more on this one too, get rid of some of these really dark spots.
Would you put a clear coat on?
You can. If you're going to use it outside, you could definitely put a clear coat on. Depending on what type of paint you're using is whether you want to add a clear coat or not. If I were just using these inside, I wouldn't put a clear coat on. I've also, with this one, I'm using Fusion Mineral Paint. And Fusion Mineral Paint has a top coat built in, so I don't have to do that extra step of adding a clear coat to anything. If you were putting these outside, though, you could definitely put a clear coat on it. This one here is actually one that I painted last summer using Fusion, and this sat outside all summer and all winter, and you can see there's nothing that has happened to it. It's held up really well to being outside, and I live in Canada, so it's held up really well to the seasons here.
How long does it take to dry usually?
This will be dry in about an hour. If you've put on a lot of layers like we have here, you want to leave it a little bit longer. If you would let each layer dry as you were doing them, it would probably take about an hour to finish drying. So this one's looking a little choppy to me, so we're just going to keep blending it in. That's the other thing that you can do too. As it's drying, if you see spots that you don't like, before it's completely dry, just go back and kind of blend it in a little bit. So the reason galvanizing started with metal was to keep metal, iron, and steel from rusting. But if metal is scratched or if there's a nail hole or something, it will rust eventually. So what I like to do, and I did it on this one here, was to give it that really authentic look. I took some of the Fusion Mineral Paint, and this one is actually their antiquing glaze. And it's a little bit clear. Oh, so this one is a clear glaze, and because galvanized metal will rust after a really long time, or if there's spots where the zinc layer has been scratched off. So to make it look really authentic, I took just a little bit of the antiquing glaze, and this one is just Fusion.
Where are you painting from?
Where are we painting from? We are painting from Ottawa, Canada. So we're up in the capital of Canada, and it's actually blizzarding here too today. So the same as New England, we're getting lots of snow today. So if you want to add some rust to your pieces to make it look really authentic, keep in mind you wouldn't just add rust to the middle somewhere. You would add rust where there would be a seam down the edge, or where there would be nail holes. So you can add like a little rust around the top. You could add a little rust around the seam here where the seam would be.
Does it have a strong odor?
Fusion mineral paint doesn't have any odor. I can't smell anything when I'm painting this, and that's why I love this paint. I use it a lot. On my blog, I use this paint a lot. No odor, and I do almost all of my painting. I paint furniture and other things and teach classes how to paint or how to paint furniture. And this paint is completely odorless, and I use it inside all the time. So that's what I like about Fusion. But any of the home decor paints, most of them now are low VOC and really environmentally a lot safer. So most of them are odor free now, which is nice. So you can see I've added just a little bit of this antiquing glaze, and as it dries, it'll actually be clearer than this. You can see on this one, there's a little bit around the bottom here that I added. And it's kind of probably hard to see on there, but you can see it just adds a little bit of color, and it just adds that authenticity to it. Again, this one was a metal pail that I painted, but it was like this bright green color. So I wanted it to have the galvanized metal look. So I did that, and then because it was metal, it did have some seams to it. So I used just a little bit of the antiquing glaze around the edge. So before we end, we want to, if you have any ideas for what you would paint around your house, be sure to share them, because we want to pick a winner for our Hometalk tote for everybody that's joining us. And again, I'm just going to add a little bit of this antiquing glaze. And if you came in late, we're painting wood, and we're painting a Christmas tin here, which is stuck, and we're painting glass to look like galvanized metal. So this one is just about, as this is drying here, I forgot which paintbrush I had there, sorry. I'm going to paint over that because there would be no rust in the middle of the pail probably, unless there had been a nail hole there. So as this is drying, you can see some of the areas might start showing that you want to add a little something to, so you can add your colors. That's the beauty of this. You can't really do it wrong. You can just add it and make it however you like it. So you can see that it's all starting to look like that. So this one, the great thing with doing something like this that's glass too, because I've only painted the outside, I can still put water on the inside. So you can take a look, and I'll have Brad show us here. See, the inside is still dry and unpainted. So once the outside is dry, I can use this as a vase. I can use it for whatever I want. So I can put water in it. I'm just going to put some of my water in here. And put my spring flowers in. And that's what I'm going to use these for. So these were really, again, these were really easy and things from the thrift store that the thrift store has plenty of. So these wood bowls you see all the time, Christmas tins, and they always have these glass vases. So this is just changing up the look a little bit to go with your home decor. And this one, like I said, is perfect for a vase. This one, if you missed it, I'm going to actually put some dirt in, fill it with dirt, and then I can put succulents inside of it. So we'll have a nice succulent planter, and then I can put this on my porch, and because the bottom is wood and I didn't paint the bottom, it's not going to leave a rust mark on my porch or anything like that. So, but I'll get that nice galvanized metal look. And this one, the same thing, it's going to be filled, and then we're going to put some spring flower bulbs in it. So that one can go inside, it'll sit on the counter, and it will be filled with my spring flowers. So if you have any questions before we sign off or anything that you want to add, just let us know. And we're going to finish up here.
Diana's the winner, and she's making a mailbox.
Ooh, so Diana is our winner, and she's going to be making a mailbox. That's an excellent idea. You could paint your mailbox to look like one of those really old galvanized metal mailboxes. If you were going to put it outside like that, I would probably suggest putting a clear coat on it so that it will hold up to the weather and you will never have to worry about it rusting or the paint coming off, depending on where you live. But I would finish, let it dry, and then you can buy a clear coat or a polyacrylic. Put a layer of polyacrylic on it for it to be outside, and then you would have no problem using it all year round. And if you're going to put a clear coat on, you can use any of the paint companies. Most of them have a clear coat now, or General Finishes has a clear coat, and you can find polyacrylic right at like Home Depot and places like that for next to nothing. So congratulations, Diana. That's awesome. So be sure to share and like and hit the subscribe button for Hometalk. They will be doing another live tonight at 7 o'clock. So be sure to come back for another DIY. And thank you so much for joining us and for learning another paint technique today. Have a great night.